Hello. Bismillah. Hello, good morning, good evening, depend where are you from. It should be last night, Bahrain's time, should be there is a live talk with Jafar talk with Jacob Cass. Now, is he joining now? Yes, hi, Jacob. We'll start and do, just a minute, give me a second. Yes. Just please confirm if if I'm audible or not, if my voice is clear or not. Hi, Jacob. How are you?
Hello. Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon at Australia time, right?
Yes, it is. It's 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Here we have now at 9, almost 9 a.m. Thank you first of all, because you are a very humble person, you are a very knowledgeable person, and you give me this opportunity to start dialogue and talk with you about your amazing work, your amazing content that even me, I'm one of your tribe, by the way. I just follow you, and even your content inspired me and inspires, of course, thousands of people all around the world. So we will start within 60 minutes, maybe less. I have a couple of questions I want to share it with you. The aim for this talk is to spread the knowledge. That's our tagline, Jaffer Talk, is spread the knowledge from all around the world. And especially you, Jacob, because I followed you before a couple of years. I saw your emails, I saw your podcasts, YouTube. You are everywhere. so that's one of my questions is, and I read about your story with the agency in, I think, in New York, that they hired you, and you're working for Disney, and then later on Nintendo. So I know all about you, almost, because you have very inspired stories. So I have a couple of questions, just like a chat. I want to share it with you, and we need, from our side, to know more about Jacob behind the scene, not in the stage. The stage everybody know, but now we need more about behind the scene about Jacob. A little bit, tell us about yourself after you graduate from university. You start as a freelancer, or what's your advice for especially fresh graduate from university? They have to start with as a freelancer, or they have to start with a big agency or even mid agency to get experience? Yeah, what's your thought about that?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for having me, and thank you for your listeners joining in. I'm excited to be here to share part of my journey to hopefully inspire you and to get some takeaways that you can apply to your business as well. So I do want to make this super actionable for you guys. It's not just a story; it's actually how you can take this advice or experience and apply it to your business. So there's a lot to talk about if we're rolling back that far. But if this is for people starting out in their career, right? You have to understand what are your goals at that particular time in your life, right? Where are you in your journey? Are you a student? Are you a student and a freelancer? Do you want to work for yourself? Do you want to work for an agency? Do you want to work overseas? There's a lot of things to consider. So every approach is going to be different. So just keep that in mind when I'm going through this, because it doesn't apply for everyone. I'm just going to share what my experience, and hopefully, that you can get some insights from that. So for me, I went from a design student. So I studied for 2 years in high school. I studied graphic design and dipped my toes into graphic design. And I was doing things like photoshopping my friends and creating like websites for my friends, just as a hobby. Right, I didn't really even know graphic design was a career, and I was just doing it for fun. And then my careers advisor told me about graphic design as a career. So that was when I knew that I wanted to follow that path. Right, so I was in high school at that time, and I focused on going to university. So I had to choose a couple of subjects around that focus. Went to university for 3 years. I studied visual communication, majoring in graphic design.
That was in Australia. Sorry, Jacob. That was in Australia or in the United States?
So this is all in Australia. So where I grew up, more or less, in Sydney. So studied graphic design while at the same time running a blog, which at the time was called JustCreative Design, and that was really the start, the seed of the business that I've built up over the past 15 odd years. So started a blog. That was also my freelancing, business as well. So I started freelancing while I was studying. I was moonlighting, so doing odd jobs here and there when I wasn't studying. But that kind of opened up this world of blogging, right? And that's when I got into blogging. So I was studying design while blogging about my studies. And from that, I got exposure to agencies in New York City, and we got talking actually through Twitter at that time. They offered me a job through Twitter, and we had a chat.
Amazing.
I still had 6 months to go to graduating, and they let me finish my university degree, and then I moved over to the States. All right, so it was a huge jump, right? So I was going from design student without a job, and then I had 6 months to go. I accepted, then moved over to New York City. I didn't have anywhere to stay the day before I left. This is a major move. I found a place to stay the day before, and I went from being a design student to working for Disney at an agency. So it was a huge jump. Got exposure to Nike, got exposure to Major League Baseball clients, and it was a massive jump. But that's really how I got started. But to apply this to people listening, right? I really, based on my experience, I really think that jumping into an agency after university or something similar is going to give you much more exposure to greater minds than your own, right? So you can learn from others. If you go straight from studying to working for yourself, you're not really exposed to that. You don't really know the ins and outs of the industry. And the only way to get experience of the industry is to go into the industry. So generally, I do recommend people that are in the start of their journey to work for an agency or a small shop or a boutique firm. Some ways you can tap into people that have been in the industry longer than yourself.
Perfect, because I think what you did is, number one, you're building your own personal branding while you are studying. That's why you have that blog. From your personal branding, there's expose for other potential companies. They asking Mr. Jacob, come please join us. So I think we agreed that for fresh graduate, they have to join any tribe, even small or big. I mean, a small agency, big agency, because at the end of the day, number one, they do the networking. Number two, they will get the experience about know-how. Number three is the spirit of teamwork. So all that elements, it will be embedded with them. After that, they can just either fly or just continue as employee. That's what you did, because what you did is something amazing, Jacob. Because while you are studying, you already create your own content, which is JustCreative. Till now, it's one of the best resources for designs all around the world. That's really because you have the PDF file, you have courses, you have consultant, you have videos, podcasts, blogs, many things. So it's 360 surfaces, and that's not, as you said, it was the seed. So we come up with the state now for JustCreative to become one of the biggest resources for designs all around the world. It's not within 24 hours or day and night. It takes hard work and persist, and that's what I get from you, Jacob. When I heard from some of your podcasts or from YouTube, you don't care about how many followers. I know, because it takes time. Till that time, which is JustCreative alone as a brand, and that's the exposure. So I think we agree, both of you, both of us, that for fresh graduate, they have to to join small or mid agency to to create their own positioning and their own experience. Anyhow, if we have any question, by the way, I will just jump and sorry, I will say the question. The question is from studio. What would you suggest for someone coming into the industry later in life, maybe after 30, 40 years? So what do you think, Jacob, about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It depends on your background, but the reply is going to depend on where you're coming from, right? If you haven't had a background in the creative industry and you're coming in fresh, you're going to have to start just like a student would, right? But if you have some other skills, from other areas, perhaps you have a head start in some respect. So I always come back to what you want to be, right? What are your goals? If you're coming into the industry, like, where do you want to be in the industry? You know, do you want to work for an agency? Do you want to work for yourself? Who do you want to be working for? Like, who do you want to serve? Right? So some of these questions, you have the fundamentals before you get into actually doing it. So if you have an aim, that really does help that path, right? And you know, everyone starts from the beginning. It's true. Like, we all start somewhere. We have to. So no matter where you are in your life, I think it is possible to, you know, grow a personal brand, grow a business, or work from someone else. You know, you just have to learn the skills, just like any other industry. So that would be my little short answer.
Okay, I have another question related to education and fresh graduate. Usually in the West, they have, majority they have universities or college for design and communication. Even we have it here, but I think there they have the mindset of design. Means after you graduate, there's a couple of agencies, there's big brands, so you can apply whatever the theory to practical. So do you have a couple of, do you have many freelancers, for example, in Australia, even without studying in the college? So what's their background? It was for you as like a threat for as a freelancers without educational background. I mean, in your country, in your market. So I have two. I have a freelancer after he graduated from university. That's option one. Option two is a freelancer just independent. So he don't study from any university, any college. Is that the quantity of freelancers without education is high in your country, or if it's like a threatening for the fresh graduate from university? Yeah, that's my question.
So just to reframe the question, you're asking if, you know, being self-taught or going to university or college is, what's percentages. So personally, it's been a long time since I've been in design school, but I've never stopped educating myself, right? I do believe that there's a lot more information and programs and resources online these days than what can be provided in some colleges or universities, especially in the web development, digital media world, where by the time it's already in, like, it's gone through the bureaucracy of, you know, universities, that information can be a little bit dated, right? Or very dated, depending on the university. So I think there's a lot of value to learning online, but if you do need the structure or the discipline or the, I guess, a hand to hold you through that process, you know, university or college could be, you know, the right option for you. But at the end of the day, it's about skill stacking. So learning different things to help build your career up and your business up. You know, for example, as a designer, we have to know a lot of things, right? Marketing, it could be any creative, really. You have to know marketing and design and business smarts, and then there's the email funnels and SEO and accounting, and the list is endless, right? It's really is. So you're not going to learn all of that in university or college. The best way to learn it is by doing it, like, hands down.
Yes.
So I can't give any percentages, but I do know that, like, my opinion is that you can self-teach. And I actually did, you know, teach myself a lot.
I agree with you, because a couple of skills should be from the person himself. For example, presentation skills, negotiation skills, you know. These things, it cannot be online or even university. As you said, we have to do it. Just do it. Nike tagline. we have to practicing with time. Yes. Yeah, just creative. So I have another question related to Just Creative as a brand, as a platform for the content. What make Just Creative unique among others?
Unique. So maybe you could tell me that.
If I will tell you that, that's what they call the brand, because that's people's perspective. But I need another. I need another point of view, which is you, because you are the owner. That will be the marketing. So I want to hear the marketing, then I will tell you about the brand.
Okay.
So what's
there's many different facets of the brand. So, you know, I have the client side services, and I have, you know, the designers and creatives who I focus on. So I'm not sure which one you wanted me to focus on for that.
Okay. From my perspective, Jacob, what makes you unique as a Just Creative is focus and diversity at the same time.
Diversity?
I mean, yes, diversity in terms of using different channels and different type of, what they call it, content presentation. For example, if it's audio, then we have a podcast. If like a visual, I mean dynamic visual, we have a YouTube. Static visual, you have a design. You have a PDF file, plus engagement such as a consultant. Even you have that service, which is a beautiful free call. I have just to pick the calendar, you will call, you know, and give like some tips or advice or consultancy. That's something amazing. So that's what I call a diversity, plus you are focused. Focus in creative and in design. That's what makes you as a Just Creative very unique comparing with others. That's my perspective.
There's 2 words. Thank you very much. That's very kind. So I appreciate you sharing that, which is really interesting because, you know, focus and diversity are contradictory, right? It really is.
It seems the contradictory, but for me, it's like a laser beam. Okay, but in the same laser beam, you spot in different places, but it's still a laser beam, which is focus. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Focus and diversity.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we're going for the, there's 2 facets, as I was mentioning just before. So, you know, services, branding services I do for clients, and then like creative professions is the other avenue. So most of the time I'm working towards, you know, creative professionals, focused on them, but I also have a lot of client or a lot of content focused for, you know, entrepreneurs or people that may need branding. So I do focus in 2 different areas, and you're right about the diversity because it's really an ecosystem, right? It all hovers around the Just Creative brand, and you know, the more channels you are on, the more people you can connect with. But that can also be a downfall as well, right? Because you're losing focus from one platform, right? I know that if I spent all my energy on Instagram, that I could easily grow it to, you know, whatever I need to be, but you know, that's not my strategy. And, you know, I have focused on other areas such as search and, you know, being a little bit more diverse. So having different, you know, having the podcast, having the YouTube and being everywhere. So that's my approach. And, you know, it's not going to work for everyone. I have a nice ecosystem set up with strong search power, which is really helpful. And that's really the backbone of my business.
Okay, Just Creative is one-man show, or you have your team? I mean, you are solo, or you have, you know, support and back, what they call it, behind the scenes?
So I can share a little bit about that. So for the client services side, I pretty much do everything: strategy, design, marketing, you know, the whole shebang. When it comes to the blog side of things, I have a team of writers. So I have 3 full-time writers now. I have 3 part-time writers. I have 2 editors. I have a virtual assistant, and I have a podcast and video editor. So that's the team that work behind the scenes. But I'd say like it's probably about 5 full-time-ish. You know, so.
Okay. Yeah. Because only we see Mr. Jacob. We don't see the behind the scene, and that's very smart. You know, even me, I thought, Mr. Jacob, you have all that time to do all these things alone? Of course not. There's something bad. So what's your secret recipe in terms of the content creation? For example, you have interviews with the entrepreneurs, with the designer, or even animator, etc., etc. How you can schedule yourself between customers' needs and requirements, and between the content to build your own personal brand as a Just Creative? How you can manage that?
Yeah, so
sorry. Plus, you have your own team, you know, and your family. Yeah. So you have many things.
Yeah, we all live busy lives. So when you say focus, it's like maybe I should focus on less, right? than I could do. But it's the team there for the content side of things. They do most of the writing. Back when I started, I did everything for like a good decade. Yeah, but now I understand what's working, and I've just really scaled that up, and over in the past 3 years. So this is all pretty new in the past, like maybe 2-3 years of hiring this team. Everything else before that was myself. So because the reason I didn't have a team was I was scaling, I was traveling, And my focus really wasn't on that. It was more of like a lifestyle decision, right? So it was full-time traveling more or less. But more recently, we've been in COVID, we've bought a house, we've had kids, had much more time to build business up, to scale it, and it's really, really grown. So that's really the reason why I've built up the team now. But I still love working with clients doing one-on-one branding engagements and getting the creative side of it of me out. But yeah.
Okay, how to generate the traffic to your account, not just for the audience, because this B2C, I'm talking about B2B. For example, client know about JustCreative from a website or from events or from maybe email marketing. What technique that you already use to grab attention for the B2B customers?
Okay, so I have a couple of things. The biggest one would be the email magnet or the lead magnet that I use on my website, which is called the Branding Briefcase, which actually targets both designers and other customers or B2B brands. And inside that are PDFs and downloads and an email course, and there's also resources for designers. So that's probably my biggest lead because my site has a lot of search traffic come into my site, so I can have like an email, a pop-up come up on the page, as well as some calls to action on the sidebar and the footer. They can get into my email list where I can provide them value and nurture them that way. So that's how I really use a system to, I guess, nurture clients and build up clients, and that's meant that I haven't had to pay for advertising since I started back in 2007. It's all been organic through word of mouth and through search and, just being active on social media. So that's really how our system works. But I've recently started doing some paid cold outreach, hiring like an agency just to do some cold outreach and testing that. It's not going too well right now, but I'm trying it out. I've never really done that before. So it's just, trying new things, and you never know where they're going to lead. So that's where I'm at. But I actually did do a little audit of where I've got my last clients, and it's pretty, as you said, it's been very diverse. It's been like Clubhouse, it's been Instagram, it's been SEO, it's been LinkedIn. I don't think there's been anything from Pinterest, but there's been 3 word of mouths, and there's some past clients as well. So it's very, very mixed. And if you have these systems set up, it's all automated, right? I'm not actively looking for clients; they come to you, and that's really the secret. If you're asking about.
Yeah, your secret recipe. I think your what they call it, methodology of marketing, same as Gary V, because he always said that if you have a content, you have just to spread in different channels. You have to be everywhere. Of course, that comparing with Seth Godin, which he already want to focus more about 1 to 2 channels. Of course, there is no wrong or right about that, because it depends, about your target audience, about your channel, about your content. So my second question is about if you are focusing to targeting the B2B, but the major of your content is targeting designers. So how you can targeting designers at the same time you grab attention from the B2B, which is the customers.
Yeah, it's challenging, and that is a problem of mine, because I do scare, well, I don't want to say scare, but I do lose a lot of B2B clients in my email list, for example, because I target a lot of designers in my list. So it may not be so useful for B2B customers. And the way around that is to segment your list. I haven't done that. So I know that's a big downfall of my system. But the branding briefcase, I split up the landing page to say, like, okay, well, this is for designers and this is for business owners, and that way you can target both. So it's just like one big package, and that's really how I've managed it. But I've seen other people that are kind of in a similar situation of mine, who have clients and they all also coach designers and have resources around that, and they have like separate landing pages, or they have it's split in sections, like an education, a design education section, and then like a business education section. So there's different ways about it, but that's really how I handle it. Probably not the best when it comes to emails, but That's
Yeah,
how it goes.
I think what you are doing is smart. Do you know why? Because you are positioning yourself as an expert in design field, and you're talking to designers, but at the same time, me as a customer, for example, I'm a client, I will check JustCreative. I will see all his content, Mr. Jacob content. Of course, that perception will be in my mind. He's the expert because he have all that content related to design. Even if you are not talking to me directly, but I will come back to you. Why? Because you are positioning yourself based on your content, based on your target audience, based in the channel you already use as JustCreative equal experts in design and brand. That simple formula, which is, I think it's very smart, because another technique which is using direct marketing, which is, for example, I will give you an example. Some of my content targeting B2B mainly to educate clients what's marketing, what's brand, etc., etc., etc. Which is that's fine, because as I told you before, there's no wrong or right. It depends. There is no, especially in design and branding, is not mathematics. We have one formula, you know. So just by the way, can you hear me? Because I have some noise. My voice is clear for you?
Very clear.
Okay, okay. So my another question is related to your strategy of content creation. Okay, how you can start your content? I mean, from where you get inspired? From the needs in the market, or from a couple of articles you read it after that, you know, to get inspired from article and you create a new content. What's your strategy of content creation in JustCreative?
Okay. All right. Just to jump back to before about your question, the targeted designers and business owners. The content I put in my email list is all around branding, so it definitely relates to both designers and business owners. There's no like separation there. It's brand as a whole. So that's really how I handle it. I forgot to mention that earlier. In terms of your second question about content producing, so it depends on where I'm producing, right? So for Instagram, I target more designers, and what I post there is more around what I'm building at the time or what I'm learning at the time. So let's say 5 years ago, it was around logo design, and then more like a couple of years ago, I changed to brand strategy. More recently, I've just moved into building a community. So the content has changed and developed depending on what the projects that I'm working on currently. When it comes to the blog and my affiliate revenue and passive income side of things, the team I have a team researching, and when we find out something that works, we just scale it. We pump out a ton of different articles, and that kind of works as its own ecosystem. For example, let's say we find something trending like Procreate brushes, right? We post a couple of articles on Procreate brushes. Okay, they're going really popular. Let's make like 30 articles around Procreate brushes, right? So you just that's just one example. Another example is that, okay, well, this Adobe article is going really well and making a ton of passive income that way. Let's do some more content around that, and it's just going to amplify the success of that content, right? So we create like 20-odd articles around Adobe, and that's just two examples of how we create content when it comes to passive income. When it comes to there's courses as well, like top courses, branding courses, brand strategy, best books. There's no shortage of ideas. It's just seeing what works and amplifying. That's the simplest way to put it. When it comes to content for other platforms, YouTube, it's more, I don't do much on YouTube. It's more about the podcast is going on a video format, but that's just, the podcast duplicated more or less. The podcast, we focus on branding as a whole. So on the Just Branding podcast, it's just focused around branding. And that's really the core of my brand is brand. Brand building and brand strategy, and that's kind of stemmed from logo and identity design. So it all lives in this realm of brand. However, when it comes to the blog, it's a little bit more diverse based on like design resources for designers. So I hope that gives you some insight.
Perfect. By the way, do you have a presence in Clubhouse recently?
I have been a bit on Clubhouse. I was pretty active for a while when it first came out ish. Then I went off for a couple of months, and I've just started getting back into it. So I do have a profile there, but yeah, it's not too often that I go there.
Yeah, because I didn't see you recently, because I follow you on the Clubhouse. I think it's worth it because even it's one of the hottest now audible platform, which is you can use it as a podcast. By the way, some people they already record it and put it as a podcast in YouTube, which it will be sustainable, especially if it's engagement. It's not just one-way communication. You have audience, you have moderators. I think
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it when I've been there, and I've even got a client from there as well, which turned into a large client, which, you know, it's, you never know where they're going to come from. But the thing is, I found that as a big time suck. Like you can just go to room to room and talk for ages or listen in, and I turned off all the notifications just because it was taking too much time away. But I do definitely get the value behind it. And I do enjoy it as a platform.
Yes, especially because you have different channels. So time management is number one, mandatory for you. Even because you are not just working alone. You have a team, so you have a team, so you have to manage your time 100%. Otherwise, it will be there's no consistency, there is no impactful. That's the title of our talk, the impact. How design create that impact in the design. So we have another question related to client side. What was one of the or the what they call it wrong perception from clients about design services? For example, they underestimate the job of designer because it's just a logo. They think about brand and it's just a logo, or just marketing, something you know need a study or experts. It's something basic. So, what type of clients that you already faced that they have a couple of problems that you can share it with us, or
So,
our ideal client? Of course, no. Of course, there's no client many people. Yeah.
So there's, you know, it's a pretty open, that can be answered many ways, but, you know, what I've found in recent years is that how I used to go about talking with clients could have a lot of improvement. You know, so more recently, just understanding the soft skills behind, you know, understanding their problems, digging deeper, and understanding the psychology behind, you know, where they are and where they want to be and how to use that leverage to sell through your services. This is a skill that I definitely did not develop early in my career. And looking back on it, I wish I did. I didn't like phone calls. I didn't like, I didn't have my phone anywhere. Well, I still don't actually, phone number anywhere. I did everything through email and forms only. I never talked with the client one-on-one. I didn't have video. So this was like much to my detriment. Sell through your services and provide more than just a logo design. You have to ask more questions. You have to be more curious. You have to dig deeper to understand what they're trying to build, why they need it, right? Because this is going to allow you to provide more value to them, and more value means more money to you and more leverage as well, because you can truly understand what they're trying to do, right? And the risks involved and all of that. So this comes down to, you know, sales skills, soft skills, psychology, and just learning how to, you know, position yourself as an expert that can guide them to their, you know, their what they want, right? So I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but
another one from this, which is usually the designers, and maybe you agree with me or not, but most of the designers, at least in my region, if they have a business, either solo or tango, I mean, they have their own freelancer or they have their own company, they settle with their businesses. Means they don't looking for uplift their knowledge and experience to have a course or thing, you know, such as that. What is something common between me and you, because both of us we are level 3 tribe. I just saw your story today. Before 1 year ago,
yeah.
even you are a business owner and you have a team and you have a lot of content, but still you are looking for learning, which is that's I think mandatory for any designer. They have always keep learning, you know, keep open mind, keep challenge. It's not whatever that I have, that's it, you know. So what's your advice for the designer, either fresh graduate or the business owners, in terms of learning? Do you have, for example, some references they have to go for? You as a Jacob, as a Just Creative, you have dedicated time to reading, to update your knowledge. So what's your what they call it, recipe for to get more knowledge and experience?
Simply, you just have to be more curious, right? To stay curious, and that's, you know, always learning. And to do that, you do have to set aside time. But it's I don't have a strict schedule to do that. I just when I'm passionate about something, I want to learn about that topic, right? So I can look back on my career and say, okay, well, in design school, I was suddenly attracted to typography and logo design. So like I just spent so much time in those two areas of design, and it's no surprise that that's where, you know, my career went. I just went towards logo design, and I love typography, so that's where I focus. For other designers, it could be illustration or a style of art, or, you know, a digital, you know, it could be animation. If that's what you're attracted to, focus on it, right? That can be where you start your career. For me, it was logo design. For you, it could be animation or whatever. So you can't do everything at once. And you don't know where you're going to be in the future. So focus on what you do know, and your journey will take you where that's meant to take you. So for me, it went from logos, it went to identity systems, so then doing packaging and, you know, larger systems, and then it went to interactive design, web design, and I did that for 5 years while doing logo design. And then more recently, I have, you know, the world of brand strategies opened up, and I started learning that. And I've taken like so many courses and read so many books around strategy and the business of design. So I wouldn't have known that like 15 years ago, that I was going to turn into a strategist or an educator or a coach. But I knew what I had a passion on or with, and that's where I focus. So that's all I can tell you is like, learn what you are interested in, because that's what life's about. You don't want to do things you're not interested in. So double down on it and see where life takes you.
Yeah, as what Les Brown said, be angry, you know. Be hungry, you know, for the knowledge.
Hungry.
Yes, be hungry. You know, get more knowledge, to be more focused, to upgrade your system. I mean, your mind. So we have a question from my friend Hashim. He said, within your ecosystem, what would you identify as a technical and what strategy towards your long-term goal in terms of the activities and channel that you use for your goal? That's a question from our friend Hashim.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I wish I had a better answer, but I don't really have long-term goals. I've never really have, which kind of goes with my answer before. I just focus on what seems right at the time. What's, you know, I go by intuition, right? And I don't have, you know, I don't even have like yearly goals, or I've never written down a goal. And I think that's not necessarily good advice. It's probably good advice to write down goals, but for me, I just use my gut and go in the direction where I think is right. Sometimes it could be wrong, sometimes it could be right, but who's to know? So that's not good advice, but that's how I work. In terms of the ecosystem, it's been there for a while, so it's working and it's automated and it's already a system. So it's not broken. So there's,
yeah. How many Jacob Creative till now? How many
what's
years?
that? Sorry.
How many years have you been Just Creative?
2007 I registered, I believe. So yeah.
And you and all your clients within Australia or so worldwide?
It's all worldwide. Yeah, it's all continents minus Antarctica. So I haven't worked with any penguins recently. So.
With penguin?
No penguins.
Interesting. Okay, we have a last question, which is two last questions. Sorry. How we can get benefit from what you are doing now as designer, as clients? So you have your website. We have to go there to to register, especially for email marketing. What else do you have in your website?
What do I have? Sorry.
What do you have in your the content? How we can get benefits as a designers and as a client?
Okay, so what resources are on my website?
Yes.
Okay, so for design, there's so many. There's so many. So there's a lot. Right? So the best way is to go to justcreative.com and check it out for yourself, because there's so many articles and lists of best courses, best fonts, podcasts. It's man, I can't even think. There's just so many. There's literally like a lot of content because we've been on there since 2007. But what I focused on in the beginning was logo design and identity design, and more recently strategy. So there's a lot of content around those subjects, but as well as freelancing, business, creativity, Procreate is another big one, Adobe resources, and any like compilation of resources is on there, sorted by categories. So if you're interested in brand strategy, I have like a whole list of resources around brand strategy. Or if it's logo design, a whole list, and it's sorted by like best books or best downloads or best whatever. So yeah,
your email, because I'm in your email marketing list, which is brilliant, because between time to time, for example, you have the best book for branding, all the book, or the best audio. That categorization, which is make me as a client or as a designer more convenient with this creative experience,
Yes.
So that's number one. Another one, another point, which is, if there's internship, do you accept any internship from all around the world, or you are close for that? For example, if there's like a potential from one of our universities, Bahrain, just an example, and a couple of students, they want to be like they have to get the internship with you as just creative. Do you accept that, or you have
I haven't. So I don't really work with other designers, or I haven't really had an intern, to be honest. What I do need, I've already got, right? So that's the VA and the editor. So sorry guys, but if you propose something and that's you think.
So that's why I want just to raise this question to you.
Yeah.
Because they're passionate with Just Creative, and they ask me if there's a chance or not. That's why I'm asking you, and you clearly say it. There's no chance. maybe in the future. We don't know.
The reason behind that is because I want to be able to like make it worthwhile for the person, but I just have so many other things going on that I wouldn't be able to give the value that I'd love to give to someone in that position. So that's the honest truth.
Perfect. So last question: what's your advice for the solo business? I mean, for the one-man show, what they call it, a design house. For example, we for example, me and Hashim and many in solo business, they already start their own business for a couple of years, and now with the new challenges happening in terms of social media, in terms of understanding the client's needs, from your perspective, because you have experts and you have diversity and focus at the same time, what's your advice for such entrepreneurs in design / creative industry?
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a long advice, but there's a couple of ways to look at this, right? So if you're starting out, you have to know who you are, right? What your skills are, and what's important, or what's going to be relevant for your customer. You also have to understand who you're up against in the marketplace and why someone's going to choose you, right? So knowing what skills you have or can offer is number one, right? That's really the crux of your business, right? That's what you do. Number two is, who are you doing this for, right? So many people miss this, right? They don't know enough about the customer. They're like, oh, I'm doing branding. Okay, but who for? And what are their needs? You have to go deep, right? And then you have to understand, like, okay, well, put yourself in the customer's shoes. If they're searching for an X, brand design or whatever it may be, what results are they going to come across? How are you going to stand out, right? What are your credentials, right? So this whole These are all different pieces of the puzzle, and you can't leave sections of it out, right? Otherwise, you're just going to have a crappy looking puzzle with holes in it. So you have to make your whole business, or think about it holistically, more or less, right? Who you are, who you're up against, what makes you different, and who your customer is. So that's really the areas that you have to look at. If you want to learn more about that, there's a 3C model, right, that you can look up that will help you in more detail around setting up your position in the marketplace. And that's really how I would advise people in the beginning to go to build their brand. And that's what I help my clients with. We look at their brand substance, we look at their positioning, we look at their customers, competitors, and how they fit in the marketplace. So.
Perfect. Anyhow, we have less than 10 minutes, which is, as I promised, within 60 minutes. So we have another question here. It's talking about, I need your thought about this the question. How we might validate our skills as a brand strategist?
So validate your skills. So who are you validating for, right? If you think about it from the perspective of your customer, right? What are they looking for? They may not even be looking for a brand strategist.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to understand where they're coming from and how you're positioned as well, because they're going to work hand in hand. For example, some clients may be looking for a logo design, and that can be your in to start talking about brand identity or brand strategy. Yeah. However, if they're a little bit more clued in and they are looking for brand strategy, how are you going to communicate your skills, right? And what you offer? You have to have some proof, right? Either case studies, examples, or some information on your website. Just put yourself in their shoes. How would you decide? Like if you're looking for a strategist, what would you look for? Mm-hmm. Testimonials, an about page, credentials, everything works together. Social media profiles. That's why it's so important to be in so many different places. Like if you're not online, if you don't have social, and then they're comparing someone that does have a strong profile, just things like that you have to think about. Yeah. So how do you validate your skills, your position, your experience? It all works together.
Yeah. What we can call it is to create your credibility. Credibility comes from your from clients' testimonial, through your presence, through the content you share with, through your communication with your target audience. All these things, as you said, it's like a piece of puzzles, but it completes the full picture of your credibility. And your credibility creates the trust, and the trust, it will create your positioning in the marketing among others competitors. So it's as a chain. It's one piece to one piece to one piece to create all these things. So when you're talking about the why and how, it just reminds me of Simon Sinek Golden Circle. Mm-hmm. Why, then what, and how. But I think it's more than that, because you added who. With Simon Sinek, there's no who. So we start with why, how, what, and who. The target audience, the tone of voice, the language, how can you understand your clients, how you can communicate with them, especially if B2B, maybe it's not working for Instagram, maybe it's work more in LinkedIn. So that's why I have 7 C's. I want to share it with you, Jacob. Especially how to create the content and to present yourself as a strong personal brand. Start with the cause, that's first C, because just reminding them. First, what cause is why. Then you have to find your concept. Through the concept, you can create your content. From the content, you have to choose your channel. So after channel, you have to be consistent, which is that's your power. You are very consistent in your content, presence. That makes you very unique in terms of the content and the presence, consistency. After the consistency, the last 2 C's, which is very difficult, which is create your own culture, the terminology, the people. After the culture, it will be the ultimate one, community. Or we call that the ultimate. That's why, for example, we have Harley. They have their own language, their own tattoo. course, I don't mean we have to put the tattoo Just Creative.
We'll get some just.
But they have like a community that the same tone of voice, the same code, the same maybe terminology, which is this the ultimate one. I think this 7 C's or maybe no 8. As a Just Creative, you have this. You come up with the community because I get your email list and people talking about you and people get benefit from your hard work. And I really appreciate your time, appreciate your focus and diversity at the same time. Regardless, as Seth Godin said in one of his Instagram posts, don't focus about followers. I know it's like addictive now with social media, how many followers you have. But he said that focus about the content, but because later, sooner or later, you will create your own tribe, even small tribe, big tribe, which is that I see it in your content. You have beautiful content. I advise everybody who's watching us now to go to justcreative.com, put your email there in the email list, and you will get many things, which is I already studied from you, Jacob, by the way. From your email, from your podcast. Between time to time, I have to listen at least one podcast per day.
Well, thank you. That was very kind. That was very, very kind.
End of the day, you positioning in a right place, and I will get from it. And we have to spread that knowledge all around the world. Please go and justcreative.com, follow Mr. Jacob, and definitely you have a lot of things that worth to share. And my last question: did you write a book about about business or something, or you have a plan to write a book, or it's not your interest now?
Back when I was into logo design, I wanted to write a logo design book, and then my interest changed, right? So that never happened. But I don't have plans to write a book. I have enough content. I have a lot of things going on, but I think eventually in the long time future, there will be something. But for now, still being like a sponge, getting all the bits and pieces together, but I won't say no.
Yeah, because I just read from Medium, the website. There's a question for American something strategic. The question it was as follows: how I can market myself? The answer is write a book. Because percent all around the population, all people around the world writing a book. So even you positioning yourself as an expert, yes, I have a book. Of course, there's a book that's worth to read and research, facts and whatever. So, but now these days you have a website, and you have the email list, and you have courses, and you have consultant, which is, I think this diversity is giving the adding value to you. And thank you, Jacob, for your time. It should be last night, by the way, guys, but with the time difference between Australia and
it happens. It happens.
Hours ahead, so miscommunication happening. Sorry, but at the end of the day, it will be an IGTV. I'll upload it later on YouTube. I'll share it with you, Jacob. Thank you for your time. I know you are busy, but we are fit.
Yeah, perfect timing. So thank you for having me, and thank you for the kind words and the great questions. So it was a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for the questions for the guys who tuned in. So
if you have any upcoming course, of course we'll be with you, inshallah.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's on my mind is the course, but I'm focused on building the community up now, which is the exponential creators. So that's kind of my focus at this time. I think maybe in the future we'll have a course or a book, but it's just the model that I'm in with affiliate marketing. I work with a lot of other vendors, and that's kind of the model I'm using right now. So, but eventually we'll get there, but no rush.
Guaranteed, you have your own tribe, Jacob. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, and once the community is built, then that all works together. So. Yeah.
Thank you for your time again, and thank you for the content and sharing your experience. And welcome to Jafar Talk, maybe later in the future about another topic, inshallah. Thank you, Jacob. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All the best. Cheers.
Bye.